Okay, I came out this morning and did a little tour and noticed that some of my plants needed some string. I ran out of string last time, so the ones that were folding over I strung up. I got to run to the store and get more. So I was looking at the plants and I got to take off some suckers. So I got a nice little sharp pair of scissors, and this is how you do it. The small ones, you just reach in with your finger and you just pinch. Like that. Okay, the reason why I'm taking off the low suckers is because I want my tomato plants to grow up tall. And then I'm going to take off all of the branches, all of the stems, all of the leaves that are below my trellis. And everything above, I'm going to let it grow out. I bring a bucket with me. And I throw everything in the bucket. I just don't throw it around the garden. And what I do with the scissors is, any low-lying leaf that I don't want, a branch, I take it off and I put it in there. Because I really don't want my plants touching the ground. All the leaves are looking like really good right now. As soon as that sun comes up and it in the morning, all the dew evaporates and all the leaves look really healthy. So that's about it. I really don't want to do anything from here up because I want it naturally to grow. It's just I keep working it from the bottom up. So let me go ahead and continue with a few more over here and I'll explain it. Okay, on this plant, if you look, you got a main leaf and you got the main stem, and here is a sucker. It's right in between. So you just pinch it off, that's a sucker. Then you look at your plant, and right here you have the main stem, you have a branch, and you have a sucker. So the small ones you could just pinch, like right here, the main stem, the branch, and here's a sucker. So you just pinch it and they come right off. I don't like pinching the larger ones. Here's one right here, but I'm going to leave it. But on the back side right here, there's one. I'm going to get it. I don't like pinching the large ones, so I'll snip the large ones and I'll snip the branches that I want. So let me move on. Okay, here's another one. Might be a good example. This low-lying branch has a sucker on it, but I really don't want this low-lying branch. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it. So I got the sucker and the branch because I don't want that one. Now, right over here, you got the main stem and you got a sucker. I'm going to pinch it, and there's the sucker. Now here you got the main stem and you got a sucker right here. I'm going to grab that sucker and pinch it. And right here, main stem and got a sucker. I'm just going to pinch it off. Now on the back side, got a branch right here and a sucker. I'm going to pinch it right there. There's the sucker. And on the other side, here's a sucker. I'm going to pinch it. Now here's a sucker too, but I'm going to leave that on. Once my plants get up above this, I'm going to leave the suckers on. So this string, now I can move this string up a little bit more and hold it up a little bit better. These leaves, I just bust it. Grab those off. Okay, so that's about it. Actually, this bottom branch, I don't want that. It's touching the ground. So I'll snip that off. Look how nice it looks. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and snip that off. Now I'm going to move my string up and tie it a little bit better. Now this looks beautiful. No suckers. No sucker, no sucker, no sucker, no sucker. Here's a sucker, but I'm going to leave that one. Okay, here's one with some good suckers. There's actually a stem coming out under the mulch here I'm taking off right now. but right over here, I'm going to clip this. Now, here's a sucker right here. I'm pinching it. Here's another sucker. I'm pinching it. Now, up on top, this sucker here, because I've been working on other things, it's a big one. So, I don't like to pinch big ones. So, I'm going to take my scissors and get in here. And watch out for that rope. And I just clipped that one off because it was big. So I'm going to look in here, and sometimes you can't see back there, but if you feel like back here, there's one right here, I felt it. Just put your finger back in the corner, and if I look up here, I'm not really sure if there's a sucker, this one or this one, so I'm going to leave the top ones alone. I just did what I could see down here. Let that grow naturally. Okay, here's another plant. If I look in here, here's a sucker right here. You see it right in the center? I'm going to pinch it. Came right off. Here's another sucker right there, right in the corner. Pinching that one off. And right over here is another sucker, and now I got a real tiny little one here, so I might as well get that before it grows bigger. And on the back side, here's one. Okay, pretty much I got that one really good. However, I want to cut some of these stems off. Here I'm cutting this off, even though it looks beautiful. I'm cutting this one off, even though it looks beautiful. And, let's see. I'm going to cut this next one off right here. I'm going to leave that one on. That's it. Nice and trimmed up. Let me move on. Okay, this one right here on the bottom. There's an Abe Lincoln, but it's got a stem growing right out of the main trunk, so I'm going to clip it with my finger. Now, here's a sucker right here. Here's another sucker. And on the back side, hiding over there, is a sucker. I got that one off. And now coming up, here's another sucker, and right here is another sucker. And this is a leaf, a branch right here that I want to cut off. So I just cut that leaf off. It was touching the ground, now it's not. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, this one here has got a couple to do. Just look in there and you'll see right here the main stem, and here's a sucker. So I'm cutting that off. And if you look, here's another little one right here. I pinched that off, and on the back side, here's another one right there. And here's one growing. And here's one growing. So pretty much I got that one looking pretty good. Okay, now this one here is actually leaning a little bit, so I'm going to take my string, and I'm going to tie a string on this one, and then I'm going to cut off the sucker. So let me do that. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm looping around. And I'm going through the knot, down and around, and back up. Basically, you just want to get the loops so they don't tighten up. So now I'm going to come up. So this is a loose loop right here. I'm going to come up and tie it off right here. There you go. It's nice and straight. Sorry you can't see this, but I gotta do it. Okay, that's nice and straight now. So now I'm gonna come in here and peek in here and see that 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a bunch of suckers, and some of them pretty big. Like this one's pretty big. I could pinch it, but I'm just gonna take my little clipper and clip it nicely. Nice clean cut. I'm gonna clip this one, and see that one right there? It's already a big branch right here. I'm gonna clip it, but I'm gonna take the whole branch off. So I took the branch and I took the sucker on that one. Now up here, there's some blossoms and other leaves I'm not gonna mess with. I'm just gonna make sure they're flowing nicely. And there's a little plant coming out the bottom here. So I'm gonna check it out. It's growing. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's growing right out of the bottom stem here. So I'm gonna go ahead and clip that off, because you don't want that growing out of the ground. So there you go. This is all trimmed up and looking good. Okay, let me move on. Okay, this one here is a black creme, and it's got some suckers and some issues. Here's a sucker, and here's a branch going down to the ground. I'm just going to cut both of them off. So I got the sucker, clean cut, sucker and the branch. Nice branch, but I don't need it. And here's one too, a sucker and a branch. Nice, looks good, but I don't need it. And on the back side, same thing. Here's a sucker and a branch, and I just cut that off. So let's see what the rest looks like. Here's a little sucker. I'll pinch that. See, now this looks like a sucker, but it's not in the center. It's up higher, so I'm going to leave it. That's it. Everything's looking good. All right. Okay, I really need to go to the store and get some string, because this one's laying down low. So I'm going to tie it up with some spare string that I just got off of one of my other plants that was doing good. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this one up. So I'm going to loop it around, and with my finger I'm going to do a double loop. I'm going to do a knot loop right here, but that's going to slip. So I go back down on that side right here through the main loop, and then come through this loop again, and that's it. It's loose. It's a loose circle, and it's not going to slip. And I'll just go ahead and tie this one up real quick till I get some string. This will be good. I got to go to Home Depot and pick some up today. But that looks good. But now it's got issues. This branch is touching. Here's a sucker. A big sucker right here. This is a sucker. See, a stem and a sucker and a branch. It's touching the ground. I don't need that branch. So I cut both of them off, the sucker and the branch. And right here's a sucker. I'll pinch it. Here's one. I'll pinch it. Here's a little one. I'll pinch it. And here's one on the back side. I'm going to pinch it. There you go. Now this branch here is touching the ground. I want to snip it. And I'll leave that one there for now. Just like that. That looks good. And I don't know if you can see this one, but there's one here, a couple little ones. All in all, that looks perfect, just like that. Okay, this one over here has got a couple little issues. It needs to be tied up. So I got a little piece of string. I'm going to go ahead and tie this one up now. And then I'm going to trim it. But I got to go to Home Depot right after this and buy a whole spool. So I got other ones I got to do. But let me do this one right now, just for the video. Here, I double loop that. And I'm doing that. That's like a basic knot. Now, I'm going to go down around this loop and up this loop. And then when I pull them, that pulls really tight. So here you go, nice and tight. And I'm going to string it up right here. Looks like it's going to be raining out today. Okay, now let's see this one. This one's got a sucker right here. I pinched it off. Got something growing out the bottom over here. Look at that, right at the stem. I'm gonna get it. I don't want that growing out. This is a super sweet hybrid 100. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one. And on the back side right here, there's one. Looks like there's one there, but I'm not sure, so I'm going to let that go. Okay, that takes care of that one. I got one right next to it. And everything looks good on this one, so I'm going to move the camera. Okay, this one here's got a sucker right here. It's got some blossoms right there, but it's got a sucker. It's a big sucker, so I'm just going to clip it. Now this looks like a sucker right here, and it's a big one, so I'm going to come over here and clip it. Nice clean cut, both of those nice clean cut. If you go down there and you pinch the big ones, it's a little bit harder and it leaves it real rough like that. So on the back side right here, can you see that one right there on the back side? I'm going to pinch that one. Came off pretty clean. If I pinch it and it doesn't come clean, then I go back there with my finger with the scissor and I redo it. Now, this one right here, there's a sucker, but you see all these right here? Those are going to be blossoms. I'm going to leave that sucker. I don't need to take it off. But all in all, the rest of it looks good. Okay, this one looks good. It's got blossoms happening. It's got new blossoms and blossoms, so I'm going to be careful with it. But right here, there's a sucker. I'm going to get this one right there. On the back side right there, there's a sucker. So I'm going to make sure there's no flowers on that one. And right here, there's a sucker. I'm going to grab it. And that's about it. The rest of the plant looks good. It looks like there's probably a sucker right here, but it's not. See, it's in the middle, but it's not, and there's blossoms there. So don't be fooled. That's going to grow up. So everything on this plant looks good. Looks nice and healthy. All the leaves look good. The blossoms look good. Throw these in the bucket, and I'm going to move on to the next. Okay, let's look at this plant. This plant's looking good. There's a sucker there, but this leaf's going right down to the bottom, the stem. So I cut that off clean. I took both of them off. This one's going to the bottom too, and it's got a sucker, and my string's attached there. So I'm going to move the string, and I'm going to cut both of them right here. Look how healthy that leaf looks. Can you see that? Everything looks healthy about that, but I still cut it off because I don't need it. Now this string, I could move it up. I'll do that later. But here's a sucker. Pinch that off right there. Here's a sucker. I'll pinch that off. Here's a sucker here. And here's a sucker right there. Now, this plant looks nice and healthy, and when I pull this down right here, there's blossoms right there coming, but there's a sucker. And I know that's a sucker, so I'll go ahead and grab it right there. Okay. Everything else about this plant looks good and healthy. That's a cherry baby. Let's move on to the next. Okay, let's look at this one. I got a stem coming out of the bottom. Hopefully the video's on it. I'm going to clip it. That was coming out of the bottom of the stem. Now I got two branches growing to the bottom. This one's got a sucker on it, and that one's got a sucker. I don't want the branch, and I don't want the sucker, even though it looks really nice. And here's the same thing. I'm going to get the branch and the sucker, even though they look really nice. Now let's look up here. Here's a sucker. And right here, you got the main stalk, or the main trunk, vine. Tomatoes a vine, so that's a vine, and here's a branch, and it goes up. So I'm going to clip this one from the backside right there. Clip. Now, I'm going to leave the rest alone. If you look, here's some blossoms, there's some blossoms. Everything looks good about this plant. All this, look at those leaves. That looks nice and healthy. Look at that. You can see the details, top and bottom. Everything looks so healthy about this plant. Nice plant. I'm just going to leave it be and let it grow. Okay, that wraps it up for that. I went ahead and clipped all these off. All the leaves look good, no bugs, no fungus, no problems with them. It's just I've been working on the watermelons and the beds and my irrigation and other things. But now it's time for me to groom and manicure all my tomato plants. I ran out of string last time, so the skies look overcast. There's a mist in the air. I think it's going to rain here shortly. So it gives me a good opportunity to go to Home Depot and pick up a bunch of twine. I'm going to come back and string up every single plant. It's what happens when you run out, and it's what happens when you got other things to do. You kind of slack a little bit. But all in all, I'm right on top of things, and that's how your garden grows. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you knew all this stuff, but if you didn't know all this stuff, now you know all this stuff. Okay, have a good day.